Hello and welcome back to another episode of Weather or Not. I'm your host, Frank Gargione, joined alongside me by forecaster Jonathan Domow. Now, Jonathan, temperatures got into the 50s earlier this week. Can those warmer conditions stick around?
Unfortunately not. We'll see an end to the warming trend for this weekend into next week, where we'll dip down below freezing again for the first time in a little while, along with the chance of some rain, which I'll get to in my extended forecast.
You'll hear from Jonathan in just a moment, but for now, our Nature in the News.
50,000 cubic meters of snow, roughly 1.7 million cubic feet, will be artificially created and pumped out over the course of 2 weeks for the Winter Olympics to ensure quality conditions for athletes. The site for this year's mountain-related events is Cortina d'Ampezzo, situated at a height of 5,958 feet. There is plenty of natural snow to work with. Despite this, the Olympic snow will be 85% artificial for the reason of keeping fair conditions for every athlete. The first instance of artificial snow in the Olympics was the 1980 Games in Lake Placid, New York. And the 2022 Beijing Olympics was 100% artificial snow. While Olympic officials tout the benefits of artificial snow, coaches and athletes alike have expressed disdain for its use, citing unpredictability and higher risk of injury while competing. Artificial snow traps less air than natural snow, so when athletes wipe out or fall, it impacts their bodies harder. Training also becomes a challenge for some athletes who don't have access to fake snow and therefore cannot replicate the official Olympic conditions that they'll compete in.
The Environmental Protection Agency, known as the EPA, has repealed a landmark U.S. climate policy that found that greenhouse gases warm the planet and threaten human health. The agency is going to remove greenhouse gas emission standards that were put into place in 2009. The action removes limits on carbon dioxide, methane, and 4 other greenhouse gases that scientists say are supercharging heat waves, droughts, wildfires, and other extreme hazards, and also impacting human health. According to the White House, this move will save the American people $1.3 trillion. 2 professional atmospheric science organizations, the American Meteorological Society and the American Geophysical Union, both issued statements condemning this action and the lack of science used to justify it. The American Meteorological Society's statement reiterated that climate change and its impacts are harmful to people and nature, claiming that the science behind it is extensive, robust, and thoroughly vetted. The repeals will likely face court challenges, and processes could take a few years.
150,000 acres and counting have been burned in Oklahoma and Texas as high winds help to fuel catastrophic wildfires. 3 counties in Oklahoma, Beaver, Texas, and Woodward, were under evacuation notice this past Tuesday as fire risks increased into the middle of the week. Among the destroyed buildings were 2 USDA facilities as homes and businesses absorbed the brunt of the fire damage. Officials put 5 counties under barn burn orders, which prohibits all outdoor burning activities, and violations could lead to heavy fines. Flames roared through an area in Woodward County previously ravaged by a nighttime EF3 tornado back in 2012, part of a larger Great Plains outbreak responsible for 113 confirmed tornadoes. The governor of Oklahoma has declared a state of emergency in response to the fires, and the Red Cross, along with other agencies, are stepping in to provide relief and assistance to those impacted by the fires.
An avalanche at Lake Tahoe, California has killed 8 people, with search and rescue on the mountain looking for 1 more person who is also presumed deceased. The incident was reported near Castle Peak in Nevada County, north of Boreal Mountain Ski Resort, around 11:30 a.m. Tuesday as a heavy snowstorm moved through Northern California. A total of 15 backcountry skiers were involved in the avalanche, the Nevada County Sheriff's Office reported, with 6 of those people surviving and being rescued from the site. Of the 6 people rescued, the Sheriff's Office said 2 have been hospitalized for treatment. The Sheriff's Office stated that survivors were 1 man and 5 women, ranging in age from 30 to 55 years old. An avalanche warning, with the danger rated as high, was in effect at the time of Tuesday's incident, according to the Sierra Avalanche Center. It is the deadliest avalanche in the United States since 1981, when 11 climbers were killed on Mount Rainier, Washington. Each winter, 25 to 30 people die in avalanches in the United States, according to the National Avalanche Center.
California was majorly impacted by a strong winter storm that brought hazardous weather conditions to Los Angeles County. Flash flood warnings popped up for millions of residents, along with evacuation orders for some living in areas devastated by last year's wildfires. Burn scars prevent water from seeping into the ground, causing surfaces to be inundated, quickly increasing the risk for flooding. The storm itself stretched from Sonoma County to the Sierra Nevada, a distance over 150 miles long. Traffic in both directions on Interstate 80 near the Nevada state line was halted with reports of crashes and spinouts due to weather-related poor driving conditions. The western slopes of the Sierra Nevada saw up to 8 feet of snow along with subpar visibility that impacted travel for parts of the interstate. In Southern California, Six Flags closed this past Monday due to the storm and its impacts, a stark contrast from skiers who widely celebrated the feet upon feet of fresh snow. This latest storm comes during a snow drought for most of the Mountain West region and beyond, with many states seeing less than half their normal precipitation amounts. Rain in Los Angeles County is expected to continue through the start of next week. An important weekend coming up here for the campus of Penn State as Thon is set to kick off at 6 p.m. on Friday and running 46 hours to 4 p.m. on Sunday. So let's take a look at what you can expect this Thon weekend. Now, we'll start things off Friday. It's going to be mostly rainy here for much of Pennsylvania and beyond here. It'll be a little bit different up towards the northeast. This is where we can see mostly snow and a heavy chance for ice in eastern New York as well as western Massachusetts. So if you're doing any traveling to the northeast, you're going to want to take note of that. You can see that this system is going to be bringing most of that rain here, and due to those warmer temperatures, it's not going to fall in the form of snow for much of the mid-Atlantic and parts of the Midwest here, but you can see that there's some pockets of snow here in parts of Wisconsin as well as central and northern New England. But like I said, 6 p.m. on Friday is when you can expect Thon to kick off. There will be some rain falling, so make sure you bring an umbrella to entrance plan and make sure you have the rain jacket if you're heading in late overnight into Saturday. Now, speaking of Saturday here, it'll fare a little bit better than Friday will. We'll actually be partly cloudy here in some portions of Pennsylvania. That doesn't mean that there isn't rain on the map. There'll be rain to the south of us, and it'll be extending north into the southwest corner of Pennsylvania. So the Pittsburgh area can expect to see some raindrops falling. Now, along the rain-snow line, that could be a wintry mess, so definitely take note of that if you're doing any traveling to Ohio or Kentucky. But north of that rain-snow line, it'll be falling as all snow, especially as we see temperatures take a little bit of a plunge going into Saturday and then into Sunday here. You can see that cold front is going to start to die off around the end of Saturday, and it's going to bring a lot of snow to portions of New England as well as New York. But again, it is not going to head south here to State College and disrupt Thon on Saturday. Now, Sunday is when we see the conclusion of Thon, and this is the biggest chance for snow showers here in State College as well as much of the northeast here. That low pressure system is going to provide enough forcing for that snow to fall. It'll be a little bit rainier to the south here in parts of Virginia, and along that rain-snow line, as always, can be a very bad wintry mesh. But as you're heading out for Thon for the Final Four and leaving the BJC, that is when you can see the most snow falling. Now, let's get into some temperatures. So for Friday, we'll be almost at 50 degrees. 48 degrees is your exact temperature on Friday as those raindrops are falling here. It'll be falling well into Friday night. However, the rain will begin to taper off as we head into Saturday. 35 degrees is your temperature. Now for Saturday, we'll rebound back up to 45, not as high as Friday, but partly sunny, mostly cloudy, partly cloudy, however you want to look at it. But those clouds will begin to build up to mostly cloudy on Saturday night. 31 will drop below freezing. And then on Sunday, that is when we can see the snow start to fall. 26 degrees is your temperature. So you might not need the umbrella, you might not need the rain jacket, but you're going to want the hat and the gloves because it'll be chilly and it will be snowy. Now, let's hear from Rebecca Newell for her feature on cherry blossoms.
Every year, Washington, D.C.'s cherry blossoms draw in people from all over the world. Their blooms a sign of the genesis of spring. Warmth is what prompts the trees to flower, but in a changing climate, they've been blossoming before the calendar flips to spring, and that's not necessarily a good thing. The early blossoming is something of a trend in recent years. According to Climate Central, the average peak cherry blossoms date in DC was April 6th from 1931 through 1960. But this has changed. From 1981 through 2010, the average peak cherry blossom date has shifted to April 1st. An early bloom may seem like a treat during the Northeast's bleak winter season, but it is anything but. An earlier bloom leaves these trees vulnerable to frost. In 2017, 70% of the trees along the tidal basin were damaged by winter chills after a sudden warm snap in February forced an early bloom. According to the National Park Service, Washington, D.C. is warming at a rate of 3.3 degrees Fahrenheit per century, which is calculated to push cherry blossom bloom time all the way up to the first week of March by 2070. But with freezes still possible in March, even after a warm spell, there's a growing risk that frost could damage the blossoms before they reach their peak. A study at Utah State found that a tree that experiences a hard enough frost, especially one that follows a warm spell, can not only damage existing blossoms, but also the tissue that forms buds for the next year. So if cherry blossoms are blooming before spring officially begins, it's not just a colorful sight, it's also a sign of our changing climate. For Weather or Not, I'm Rebecca Newell.
So let's get into the recap of what you can expect for this very important weekend at Penn State. Now, for that weekend recap here, like I said before, it's going to be 48 degrees. It'll be the closest we'll get to 50 for the foreseeable future, and that'll happen on Friday. But along with the increased temperatures is that chance for rain. It'll be raining mostly before 1 p.m., but you're still going to want to have the umbrella out, especially if you're going to entrance plan. Reminder, it's better to get there early and meet up with your group. And between you and me, the buses are going to get a little bit packed because of the rain and because of thaw. Now, overnight, if you're heading to the BJC after entrance plan, 35 degrees is what you can expect, so a little bit chillier. You're going to want the jacket. You might even want the gloves here. But heading into Saturday, this is when we see things have a pleasant, nice feel to it, 45 degrees. Temperature not as high as Friday, but still very pleasant, especially with those partly sunny conditions. However, that overnight low, 31, is going to signal a drop in temperatures for Sunday. Now, I made a mistake in the central Pennsylvania forecast. The high temperature is going to be 37, not 26. So you don't need the heavy jacket or the heavy gloves to go to the BJC on Sunday. But if you're out and about later that night, you are going to want it, especially because of those snow chances. Now, let's take a look at the extended forecast. Average for this time of year is around 37 degrees, and we'll be climbing towards average for the bulk of the week. But we'll start below average for the first 3 days here on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And Wednesday will actually feature the chance for some flurries. Nothing too significant. You're not going to need to dig anything out. It'll just be snowing a little bit. Now, Thursday and Friday, you'll see those increase in temperatures well above the 40 mark. Those are going to increase the chance for rain as well, and you can definitely expect some rain Thursday, Friday. So don't put the umbrella away on Monday or Tuesday just because it is dry. You're going to want to keep the jacket and the umbrella out for Thursday and Friday. Now, stick around to find the answer for the Weather Whiz Quiz question and see if you got it right.
And the answer is C, May 9th. And funny enough, it actually happened twice, back in 1923 and 1947.
Which is crazy that it happened twice. Normally you'd expect severe storms or just a rain shower at that time, but let's get through winter first before we begin thinking about springtime.
I agree. I'm certainly looking forward to the springtime, but we just got to hold off on that for now. Unfortunately, that is all the time we have for this episode. Join us next week for another edition of Weather or Not. Have a good one.